Dude, this is kind of funny because we were talking about this in the car on our way to my grandparents this Christmas. Um, do you, how do you feel about like people who hate their name? Do you think that's like a valid thing, like to hate a name?
Yeah, I think so. I could see that for a lot of people.
Like what?
It's I don't
Like
I
who?
guess you could hate it because it's too common. You know what I mean? Whereas you feel like it's your name is John, so there's no way for you to stand out. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Or it's a little bit too different to where like, when you're in grade school and the substitute teacher is doing roll call or whatever and they can't pronounce your name. You know what I mean? It's too different.
That's
Um
fair.
one of my best friends growing up, his name is Guillermo, which like isn't it's not a hard name to read if you is very common in Mexican culture.
Yeah.
But every time you would have a substitute who clearly didn't speak Spanish, and you get to the name Guillermo,
Guillermo.
he would know like who he's after, and as soon as they would be like he'd be like Guillermo, you know what I mean?
The
So
classic, bro.
yeah, I don't know, man. I certainly don't hate my name. I think my name is always right on the outside of like super common and very distinct. So like my name was never on keychains. You know what I mean? When you're at like
Wait,
Disney and you're looking
Dylan?
for your name, it would
No way,
never
for
be
real?
there. Never, never. And if it was
Wow.
spelled like Dylan. You know what I
That makes
mean?
okay, that makes
That
total
was more
sense.
common. But yeah,
Yeah.
just like in terms of, when you're looking for your name and those types of things, Dylan was never there, you know?
Oh, okay, so let
So
me let me let me push back for a second because my argument was that there are some names you can hate, but like to me, not liking your name doesn't mean you hate it.
okay.
You
Yeah,
know, you know what
right.
I'm saying?
So outright hating it? No, I don't know anybody who outright hates their name
Right.
or I it would be hard to justify why. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like there
Yeah.
are people. So perfect example, right? There was a kid named Logan on my
Okay.
soccer team, and I knew him for years, and it wasn't until like 3 4 years into playing on the same team as him that one of his closest friends on the team, he went to a totally different school than me. It was like a
Mm-hmm.
cup soccer team, so we didn't
Yeah.
really know each other.
Yeah.
Um, and one of his closest friends called him Kyler, and it like pissed him off, like just to get under his skin. He was like, "What's up, Kyler?"
But his
And
name
then,
is Logan?
well, so I was like, "What the fuck is going on here?" Because
Yeah.
to everybody, he was Logan, and then one of his friends
Okay.
called him Kyler, and he got all pissed off. So we
Okay.
were like, "Hey, is your name Logan or Kyler?" And then he was like, "It's like my name is Kyler, but I fucking hate that name." And then so he's like, "I don't even go by it."
Oh, so his real name was actually Kyler?
It was,
Okay.
and my dad's real name is Chester, but he
Okay.
goes by Alan.
Is that his middle name?
Yes.
Okay, because yeah, I've definitely seen that before where like sort of people kind of don't prefer the first name, so they go by the middle name, which I could
Yeah.
see. You know what I mean?
I
You
can
got
I can
you got
totally
an
see it.
option. You got an option if you don't like your first name, just go with the
Yeah,
middle one.
bro, and I think it's kind of weird too because I think the difference between the generations feels like is what determines your name a lot of the time.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
So it's kind
Definitely.
of weird, like having it be so deterministic. I almost feel like it should be like when you hit like 10 years old, you just decide what your name. Like it's like a
Mm-hmm.
rebrand of
Yep.
whoever you are. You
Yep. You
know,
get to choose. Yeah.
that'd be pretty sick.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Hey, how was your Christmas, bro?
Good, man. Good. Yeah, it was chill. Just we were with the we go to pretty cool. On Christmas Eve, we actually go to my friend, funny enough, Guillermo. He has a few nephews that are none of my friends have kids. I'm the only one, but he has a few nephews that are the same age as my kids, so they kind of enjoy
Oh,
playing together and stuff. So and Brittany gets along great with his sister-in-law. So anyways, we just go there on Christmas Eve, hang out with them, like it's just a blast.
that's
No
so sweet.
stress of like, sometimes being around family can be stressful, so it's literally
None
hanging
of
with
that.
friends on Christmas Eve. Glorious. kids
Amazing.
kids have a great time, we get to have a great time.
Fuck yeah.
And then on Christmas, we were with my family and stuff. So yeah, man, good Christmas. How about yourself?
I I also had a great Christmas, honestly. mine was kind of great in the way that you said you're happy yours wasn't, because I never get to see my extended family.
Mm,
So it's like it is very stressful. And as time goes on, I swear to God, I just get more and more anxious over like big crowds of people, especially
sure.
whenever it's like packed into like one day. You're just like there's so many fucking things going on in like an 8 hour period.
Yep.
But we went to Massachusetts, saw my grandparents,
Okay.
and it was honestly really nice. I get to see, well, I should say I only saw my grandma because my grandpa passed away, but I saw my grandma and we get to see her once a year. And that old woman is just fucking slaps, dude.
That's
She's
awesome, man.
she's just like that
That's
kind of,
awesome.
yeah, she's that kind of old lady that really genuinely has like the energy and the spirit of like a 40, 50-year-old person. She's just like
Yeah.
walking around. She has a
Yep.
great wit. She's like cracking jokes and like,
Yep.
yeah, it's awesome. But we only get to see her once a year, like I said. So
Yeah.
it was cool. She was really sweet and emotional when we came down. So I was happy we got to go see her.
Enjoy those grandparents while you can, man. Everybody enjoy them.
Yeah, facts, bro. Wait, did you do anything for New Year's?
For New Year's, no, man. Nope.
Mm.
We stayed in, you know what I mean? We got the kids and did, just let them shoot off their little stuff, blow their little things, wear their little party hats.
Mm.
So yeah, we had a chill New Year's too.
Did you give them like the little crackle bombs
Oh
that you
yeah.
could
Oh
fucking
yeah, the
throw
little throw
everywhere?
at the floor, the
Those
little
are the best,
pull
dude.
those back, the woo
Oh
blows thing,
yeah,
all that stuff. Yeah.
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 Wait, do you guys have dogs?
No, I'm actually allergic to animals, man. I'm allergic to animals that shed, which is a huge, huge
Oh
majority of
no,
animals. Yeah,
bro,
dude.
that's so
So,
sad.
I've never been able to. This is interesting. I've heard a lot of different stuff over the years. Somebody told me when I was young, I'm actually not allergic to the fur of animals. Sounds crazy, but I'm actually allergic to their saliva. And since they lick themselves, that sheds, and somehow they lick themselves and then the fur sheds, whatever, that's what gets me. And the reason why I think that might actually be true, about a year or two ago, I was outside with Dexter. At the time, he was probably only 1 or 2, and my neighbor has a pretty big dog. If I had to guess, I think like a German Shepherd, a pretty common dog. I don't know my dog breeds very well, but a nice medium to
And
large size dog.
and Dexter's your son, just
Yes,
for
yes,
anybody that doesn't
yep,
know.
yep. And Dexter kind of likes dogs, as most probably 1 to 2 year olds do. So he's outside, talking with them, waving at him, all this stuff. And the dog comes by, and just to like let him know, hey, it's okay to go by him. I go by him and I let him lick me. And funny enough, I guess I haven't been licked. I just haven't been around that many dogs sort of since like when I was in high school, hanging out at friends' houses. Obviously, I'm not hanging out at friends' houses as much when I'm 30 years
Yeah,
old.
yeah, that makes
But
sense. I'm following.
but anyways, I let the neighbor's dog lick me, and within minutes, dude, my arm just was all swollen up and red and
No
stuff. And I was
fucking
like,
way.
I was like, Brittany, take a look at this. Like, this is wild. She's like, oh, you got to take some Benadryl, this, that. Like, I didn't have to go to the hospital or whatever, but it had been a long time since I'd been licked by a dog. So that's why I'm like, you know what? Maybe there is something to like the saliva thing. And
Oh,
anyways, in between kid one and kid two, for us, we were potentially considering getting a dog. They have hypoallergenic dogs that
yeah.
supposedly
Like
don't shed,
schnauzers and
things
like,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, I go and meet with a specialist in this, and in order for me to do it, he actually said that like hypoallergenic, like that term and stuff, um, sort of isn't even that true, and that those dogs, I would still be allergic to them. It would
Oh,
just be
damn.
sort of to a lesser degree and all this stuff. And anyways, in order for me to get a dog, I would have to come in and do so many rounds of shots every so often. And dude, the schedule for this was just absolutely insane for me to build a tolerance. It was like, I can't remember because it's been a couple years now, but it was like once or twice a week for the first like 6 months, and then once a month, I think, like for the rest of forever, something like that, dude. Like
Oh my God.
it was gonna be a heavy schedule in order just for me to have a dog and stuff.
Dude,
So
you know what's crazy though? You know, it's actually nuts. So
Yeah.
I actually have another story that I can relate to you with that. But it's not the same. But I what I was gonna say is there's probably plenty of people out there that would be like, yeah, I'm in. Like, sign me the
To do
fuck up.
that?
Yeah, they're like,
Oh
like
yeah.
absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
because here's the thing too. I actually I got another question. So is that if you do those treatments, is it like all animals that you are let have a larger tolerance for, or is it just dogs?
No, so it's dogs, cats, hamsters. I had a really bad allergy when my parents took me to the circus when I was young. So I'm not sure what animal it was specifically there, but horses, I know, like I think again, people out there may know may know more about this than me. I think it's I think it's fur. You know what I mean? So animals that have fur. So I'd be in trouble if I ever got attacked by a bear or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
I think
so
you'd be in trouble for more reasons than the fucking fur if you got attacked
probably,
by a bear,
probably,
bro.
but
I think
yeah,
the least of your concerns would be
just
your
in case he was
allergies.
ready to throw hands, you know what I mean? It'd be like, you know what's so funny is I think about this all the time. If there ever was like a zombie apocalypse, I'm so, I'm so, I'm already. You could probably relate. I'm already at such a disadvantage if I lost my glasses or my contacts,
Dude, I
dude.
couldn't agree more.
I'm
I couldn't agree
done.
more.
Literally, I'm walking out to the zombies. End it for me now because I'm not going through this blind. You know what I mean? If I can't see,
Dude, I don't know how bad your eyes are. Totally there with you though.
yeah,
I literally, not even as a matter of like sight necessarily, because my eyes are very bad, but you know, like when you take your glasses off, it's not like you can't operate. It's
yeah.
just you can't
It's
see very
frustrating.
well.
It's
Yeah,
so
that's
frustrating.
exactly it. I would never be able to focus on anything else because it's
Yes,
so frustrating. The
it's
second I
all
take
you
off my
could think about.
glasses,
It's all you
yeah.
can think about is how frustrating it is that you can't see.
Oh, bro, that's crazy you say that, honestly.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
but yeah, I think it might be if it was a difference between not having contact with animals and having contact with animals, if it was like that broad where the doc was just like, dude, just get these fucking shots. Like, I
yeah,
know it sucks, but you'll be able to hang out with all animals. You don't have to worry about
yeah.
it. Then that'd be great. But you know, everything is so nuanced. There's like no way that that would actually you probably experience some level of a reaction to everything still. It would probably just be lessened, you know. So it's not
That's
like
what exactly, and that's what the even with the shots, like he was like, this does not make you immune. This just helps you build a tolerance. That's all it does. You know what I
mm,
mean?
mm,
So he's like, certain dogs still could get to you more and whatnot, blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? So it's weird. When I was in high school, one of my friends that we hung out at most, his name was Zach, and he had
mm-hmm,
two big huskies, and we just hung out at his house. And in high school, I was, playing soccer. So I was sort of like at my most fit. And I actually built up a really good tolerance to, I was able to hang out at his house and he had two dogs. Huskies shed like no other. You know what I
right.
mean? But like, dude, I would literally be at his house all the time with no problem. So I think one, being immune, and two, probably being in like sort of ideal physical form, younger, good heart, all that type of stuff. I was totally fine. So there's a ton of factors that go into it.
Dude, that is crazy actually. I always it's probably because I'm young. I'm sure every like young person feels like this. I mean, you're young too. It's not like our age difference is that much, let's be honest. But
Yeah.
um like as I get older, I think a lot of people when they're in college will talk about like when you get into college as a freshman, you're drinking all the fucking time and like
Hmm.
having a blast. And then by the
Yeah.
time you're a senior, when you drink, you just have just miserable hangovers and
Oh, dude.
it's fucking and it only gets worse like
Mhm.
exponentially every year now
Yeah.
to the point where I still drink, but like even on New Year's I drank like 3 drinks throughout the whole night because I was like
Mhm.
I'm gonna be miserable. I'm gonna be tired. I'm gonna
Yep.
have a terrible headache. I was like,
Mhm.
and I don't need a drink to have fun. So like, what the fuck am I even doing it for, right?
Yeah.
Um, but the reason I bring it up is because I never think about the other things that are associated with getting old because I feel like it's just one of those things where until you experience it, you don't like it has no effect on your life. You know, I
Hmm.
never think like I got to do this right now because when I'm older, I'm not going to enjoy it as much. It's just
Yep.
like when it hits me, I'm like, dude, I wish I did more of that, you know?
Right. 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 For sure. It's just like you think like, oh, this isn't something I'm gonna do till I'm 30, or not worry about this till I'm 40 or 50 or something like that. It's like, dude, that's just a number. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah. It's,
yeah.
it kind of hit me recently because I mean, I know for people that have listened to me a lot or even listened to this podcast for a while now, I don't put a whole lot of value on money. I like money. I love money because I need money, but it's not like one of the things that I would prioritize really. And I don't really derive a whole lot of satisfaction from it. But I had this thought recently, and it
Why
was
do you think that is?
well, I think I don't know. I actually don't know. That's a good question. Why do I think that is? I guess I guess part of it is because it's kind of copium in a way where when you don't have money, like right now I live in a place with a bunch of guys and our rent is super cheap. Like we live pretty much bare minimum. And a couple of my roommates make really good money, but I
Mhm.
really never have. I make decent money, like, and I have made chunks of money at times, but it's not stable. Um, so at first I thought that I really just didn't give a fuck. And then as time goes on, I kind of realized that that's not true at all. I really do care a lot. Uh, but like, what are you gonna do? Like, if you don't have it, you're not. I don't want to just be miserable all the time. So it's like I focus on the things I can control right now. I kind of take steps
Can't
towards
you
that.
control getting money?
You can control getting money to
I'm
a
just being
certain.
contrarian here.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm totally
Mhm.
with you. Um, like, well, I guess yeah. In a way, to steel man my own argument, like you can control getting money, but I think that I mean it's risky, I guess, in a way, because everything to me is just a matter of sacrifices.
Yeah,
Like,
trade-offs.
yeah, so
Hmm.
like I can make more money by going and getting a job that gives me more money, but
Yep.
it'll give me less time towards this. It'll give me less
Yep.
time towards relationships.
Yep.
So like
Trade-offs. Yep.
yeah, I guess that trade-off never really seemed worth it to me. You know,
Okay.
I'd rather
Sacrifice and yep. Hmm.
yeah, I'd rather use this time where I don't really need the money and don't have responsibilities
Yeah.
to focus less on it and focus more on improving so that when I do need money, I can get it doing what I want. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Did you feel the same way? How's your relationship been with money as time has gone on?
Yeah. Like I other than maybe almost feeling in a way like I should say it, I've never been someone who I don't ever feel I could truthfully say make the statement I don't care about money. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Um and I'm somebody who's grown up with my parents did I had two working parents who did awesome, provided me everything I needed. Didn't grow up like with huge surpluses of money, you know what I mean? But absolutely didn't grow up like needing anything ever, you know?
Mm.
So it's not like I grew up never having anything and now I want different for my kids to provide everything for them, but I also want to provide even more for them and provide for, my wife and as well and my family and everyone around me to not have to worry. Um so, I certainly don't think money is going to solve everything, but I feel like you said, like everything sort of trade-offs and sacrifices. So in the pursuit of money, other things are going to be sacrificed, family time, relationships with friends, all of that type of stuff. And where are you willing to dedicate those resources? It's almost like the bucket theory, you only have so much water. What do you want to pour into the buckets?
Yeah.
And I think truthfully, a ton of mine goes into the pursuit of success and money and trying to build that, sacrificing those things while trying to let all the people know who I'm sacrificing for, family,
Mm.
friends, that it's for the long game, hopefully. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I knew when I left college, uh I was, if I was going to fail, I could absolutely, without a single shadow of a doubt, say that I tried absolutely everything imaginable. No stone was left unturned, and I gave it my 100% all, even if I failed. There was nothing I could have tried to work harder at than succeeding at doing this. So,
Mm,
you know,
absolutely, bro. Absolutely. I I entirely relate to that entirely because I was in the same. I feel like we had similar levels of privilege just from like the conversations we have like this, where my parents were middle class and not even necessarily speaking to privilege as far as like just economics go, but like I had opportunities that were given to me because my
mhm,
parents worked their ass off and made
yeah,
like middle class money and were able to pay for part of my college so that I
hmm
could go to college. And
hmm
I kind of always had the liberty of time to figure out what I wanted to do. And for a long time, I definitely took that for granted. And
yeah. You do
I,
it, dude. You don't know better.
yeah,
You don't know better. You know
you
what I mean?
don't.
And all you know is your situation, sort of
Yeah,
until you're presented other situations. You know what I mean? Whether that be through relationships you have with other people, but all you know is your own life, really. You know?
that's exactly it, bro. My perspective was the only perspective to me.
Hmm
I didn't have anybody at the time. I didn't have anybody in my life that I was felt so passionately about that I it drove me. You know, it was
Yep.
like I had a girlfriend at the time, but I was like, well, we'll figure it out, whatever. And my idea of success was nothing. It was nothing. I had no direction for anything. I didn't have any drive for anything. So it's interesting because I feel like in that way I've gotten a late start on like the important things in life, you know?
Sure.
And so it's crazy because I feel like I've run the gambit and I just promise myself always I'll be honest whatever my priorities are and what they need to be. And I just do whatever the fuck I have to do. So like when I first started this, I went full time because I knew my work ethic is dog shit. I don't have the skills that I really want to be at the top of the game like I would really like to. And I had money because I was working at a brewery. I just saved it all. And through
Yep.
COVID, all that stuff, I had like a nest egg of like 10 grand and no responsibilities, no bills,
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
So I was like, now feels like the time that I need to prioritize like skills and prioritize relationships and prioritize things other than money. And I think going back to your first question about like why I feel like I don't care about money. And I just want to be clear that that's not true. That really is just kind of copium to me. That's just what I say to make myself feel better a lot of times. But
hmm
it is true that I prioritize money less than other things because as people come in and out of my life or in and out of my life, I realize how valuable those relationships were
Yeah.
to me.
hmm
And I am not okay with sacrificing people for the pursuit of money.
There you go. Good
You
way
know,
to put it.
you know what I'm saying?
Turn the TikTok camera on for that.
Yeah, yeah, true.
I think I don't know how to say this correctly. But there's definitely something to when there's like more at stake for you, almost like harder you're going to be willing to work in a weird way. So like all I can refer to is my situation. Um when I was sort of, I think 24 or 25 is when I first moved out, and that was when I was 4 to 5 years into doing this.
Oh, wow.
And I remember the sort of first half a year, 6 months to a year of being away was obviously, hey, first time paying rent with an apartment and, other stuff.
Mhm.
This is when I was renting we had a studio as well for the business, and it was the first time where like I really had, I guess, like more weight on the shoulders. I wasn't living at home, working out of my parents' house, and just had a lot more responsibilities. And that it was definitely a turning point for me in the business. And that I felt like, dude, I need to straight up work harder.
Mhm.
And in a way, I just did. Like I just flat out worked more hours. You know what I mean? It was like, all right, dude, um, we're gonna have to start doing the wake up at 5 a.m. type stuff. It's not just sleep in till when you want and work casually and hang out with friends after. And you know what I mean? It was like, dude, we're gonna have to just, cut out a lot of leisure stuff and work more. And that was a absolutely ginormous, huge turning point for the business, just
Mm.
flat out working harder. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that that happened, and that happened because of the situation of, hey man, there's more at risk here. You know what I mean? There's more to lose per se.
Yeah, dude. So do you feel like that was that was like the foundation for you? Do you think you've just been building on top of that ever since?
I do. Yeah. Yep. I think that that was a huge, huge turning point because the first, like, I don't know, whatever, 4 years, I was working at home in my parents' house, wasn't paying rent. You know what I mean? Um, and it was just, like I said, just kind of casual. It was almost in a weird way treated more like a hobby. Just, hey, wake up when you want. Like I remember waking up at like 10 a.m. just regularly and then working till whatever. Like just I had a weirder schedule, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? And then it was just like, dude, like let's get busy, let's get jiggy with it and just work. What happens when you go from working 40 hours a week to 80 hours a week? Well, now all of a sudden you have 2 weeks of work packed into one. What can you do? You know what I mean? And there's a good chance you'll be able to do a lot more just putting in more man hours, you know?
definitely, dude.
So I don't know. You also need to work smarter, not just harder all the time. And sometimes I'm very much like just grab a, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. You know what I mean? And sometimes I just think just bang it more, and work harder. But you need to work smarter as well. I need to do that more.
Yeah, well, dude, I think you worked pretty fucking smart. I mean,
I think I could work smarter, man. I think I could. I
yeah.
don't think I do the like, especially the situation I'm in now of knowing I need a videographer,
Oh, right.
but just
Yeah.
flat out not putting the time in to get one. Like treating that as my job. Like my only job right now is finding a videographer, and I know I need to do that, but I'm so damn stubborn that I just think, ah, man, I don't. Nobody's going to be able to bring and it's like, no, man, that's not how it works. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? You're not working smarter right now, so got to do that. Got to do that. 2023.
That's true, bro.
You
Yeah.
know.
Hey, if anybody watching this right now, yeah, I'm sure Dylan will share this up on his page too. But just as a PSA, if you want
Yeah,
if you want to be
yeah,
a
yeah.
videographer with
If
De
yes,
Jesus Customs, let
sir.
us
You're
know, man. Send in a
absolutely,
portfolio. Um,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah, I think that's why I like emphasizing, and this is equally as much for me as anybody listening, but I like emphasizing that you just really need to be honest with yourself on where you're at, because recently, like the last couple months have been really stressful. And I've done the thing where you work through it nonstop and
Yep.
focus on what you need to do,
Hmm.
and you gotta do what you gotta do, you know, and and that was good and bad for very different reasons. I never allowed myself time to experience any of my emotions. I'm a very empathetic and emotional person. So that doesn't just go away from me if I just work. It just keeps building.
Okay.
Um and same thing with my work, where like what you alluded to, it sometimes you do definitely need to work smarter, not harder. And I was on the work hard train for too long. So I got to the point where I had expectations for myself of posting, if not every day, then every other day, as well as continually improving at the rate that I wanted to, as well as making money on the side, as well as having a girlfriend. And it just got to the point where I never got to take the time to decompress, and I just fucking exploded.
Yeah.
I just exploded, bro.
Yeah.
And it was like the last couple months that it really, like, I've been recovering from that, and I had to take a step back and just understand that if I want to get to the point where I can continue doing this and enjoy doing it instead of just doing it to do it, then, because that's when I see the most growth. And whenever, that's ultimately what I want to be able to do. Is the reason we're doing this is because we want to have a career doing what we enjoy, not what we
Hmm.
have to do. Then I was like, I just got to take a couple months and just be patient with myself, really. And I think that there are other people I know in the space that have voiced to me that they need to do that and have or have not done that. But I guess the point really just being is like, you're going to change as time goes on. You know, I'd say don't, if you're going to be stubborn with other people, then at least just don't be stubborn with yourself, you know, just be honest.
Yeah. I mean, being an artist, being an entrepreneur, 1000% of the time for anybody is going to be a roller coaster. You know what I mean? Nobody's just going to be on an exponential path. Um, and you only get hurt on a roller coaster if you jump off. So you just got to be willing to ride the wave and go with the ups and downs and stick with it is the most important thing. There's going to
Yeah.
be slow seasons, there's going to be busy seasons. You know what I mean? Don't get too high and don't get too low.
Facts.
Ideally.
Absolutely, dude. I feel like I still have so much I can learn from you, even after talking so many times, bro. So many times, because even just like tidbits like that, uh, you know, I experience my emotions to such an intense degree a lot of the time that if I'm
What
not
a
allowed,
what a what a well, they're not called moon signs. What are they? Horoscope thing, are you?
what's it? I don't fucking. I actually have no
Oh,
idea. Do you
okay.
know
I
yours?
was curious. Yeah, I know I'm an Aquarius.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know a ton. Like if you told me you were a Leo per se, I wouldn't know that is
You,
one who's emotional. I was curious if you knew yours and that synced up with you being you know, heavy on the emotion and stuff. Because I feel
ah,
like a lot of people I
yeah.
know are very much like theirs. Like I'm synced up with a lot of the stuff of Aquariuses, and it's very funny because Brittany, my wife, her older sister, who she's extremely close with, is also an Aquarius, and her
Mm.
and I are extremely alike. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And my wife is a Gemini, so they have two personalities and stuff. Very much true. So
I wouldn't elaborate, dude.
yeah,
I'd leave that
no,
one
no,
at
no. We'll
that.
just
Yeah.
send that there. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Just leave that one there.
Yeah, I don't know. I really
Okay.
don't. I'm sure it
I
does
gotcha.
align. You
I
know, I'm
gotcha.
sure it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um oh, the other thing I was gonna say that I would love to know if you're the same on this is so right now, I've always been a future thinker.
Okay.
You know, I'd sacrifice everything and am currently sacrificing really like a lot for the ultimate vision in the future. And that's constantly changing. Like I said, like sometimes you have to do what you have to do. Like I that's just the fact of the matter. But like not just work wise, right? Not just like I want to make this amount of money in the future. So whenever I have kids, then I can do these things. But also like mentally and personally, where if I know, like right now, I know that you know, I have a great work ethic, but I've worked more instead of working smarter. So you slow down, like we talked about, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you give yourself time to think. You set time aside every day to figure out what the best plan of attack is, as opposed to using that time to just work. So I would love to know if you are always a planner in that way, where you're like, whatever I have to do right now is what I have to do. I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking like even now, are you looking 5, 10 years in the future still? Were you doing that back then? What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
No, I'm not a super far distant in the future
Mm,
thinker, like 5 to 10 year. I'm a one step at a time kind of guy. You know what I mean? So like in business, you always hear about the 5 year plan. What's your 5 year plan? And if I think this is like my 11th year doing this. If you asked me during any single year what would be my 5 year plan or 5 year hopes from now, at all in each one of those years, I would have said something completely different. You know what I mean?
mm,
At one point, I wanted to, I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to have a shop. At one point, it'd be so cool to do this or that. You know what I mean? I thought it'd be cool to have a tattoo shop. So many different things. And so I always just sort of let that be. And then, like, let me work on what's sort of immediately in
mm,
front of me and what's sort of shorter term. What do I really want to accomplish sort of like in the next week, in the next month? But
mm,
everything else to me is in a way a little out of my control, what I believe, in terms of 5 years from now and things like that, because so much can change in that time period. You know what I mean? So let me just really conquer to the best of my ability what I can, one step at a time.
mm. That they okay, so I see what you're saying. Now I want to push back a little bit because you brought up as a steel man to the money argument. You know, would you say that it is in your control? And
Money?
Well, so that was what we were talking about earlier. I wanted to bring it up and apply it to this
Hmm.
because you could say, and I do definitely believe, and I agree with you that as far as career path goes, like things are going to change so much
Hmm.
that you should always have something you're working towards, but also, like Bruce Lee said, be water and just be liquid with things, be able
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
move.
Yeah. 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 For
But
sure.
but I will
Hmm.
say emotionally and as a person, right? If you know one of your, let's say, like character flaws is that you're stubborn, and right now that's manifesting in the way that you're not finding a videographer.
Okay.
That is something that is in a literal way entirely in your control.
Yes.
And I'm sure you could say 5 years ago, the person that you were, most likely, I won't speak for you, but I'd say for me personally, 5 years
Hmm.
ago, I wouldn't have been able to handle what I'm handling right now.
I agree. Yep.
You have to
Hmm.
work continuously
Yeah.
and think about what do I need to do as a
Yes.
person to do the next step.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Do you feel like you were thinking the same way, or do you think it's kind of the same method of one day at a time, I'm gonna do what I have to do, and you grow naturally? What do you think?
No, great point. And that's like you mentioned, in a way, it is a character flaw because I'm like, what is the best possible thing that I could do for myself, for my family life, for my business today? What is the next best step that I could take right now? Because I'm thinking in the short term, what is the best thing that could happen today? Versus if I was a little big picture thinking, I could say to myself, Dylan, you big dumb idiot, if your next step, you don't take a single another step till you do what is the most important thing for the future, which is hiring someone, then that's all I would focus on. But instead, I'm a big dumb idiot who's saying, "Oh, it's best if I create this video today or if I work on this shoe and cross that off the list." You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely that I think that is an issue because here I am thinking that the best thing I could do is knock out this when it should be sometimes I need to, see the bigger picture and say, no, rather than that short-term goal, let's work on something a little bit bigger picture here. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
dude,
there you go, man.
yeah, I love it
That's
because
some good
I
reflection right there.
absolutely, yeah, it's like reflection part two.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's really important to also clarify that I genuinely feel like it's just a combination of both,
Hmm.
because they say that looking to the past will give you anxiety, and looking to the or I'm sorry, looking to the future will give you anxiety, and looking to the past will give you depression.
Mm,
And so
mm,
like that's something that I have to constantly kind of ground myself. I wish in many ways I was more like you, Dylan, because I I'll look so far to the future that I'll look at my Instagram page, I'll look at the work I'm doing that nobody will ever see, and I just am constantly like, am I on the right AR track? Am I on the right physical track? Am I on the right
hmm.
personal track? It's
Yep.
like it feels like so many fucking winding roads, but they're all changing, like you said.
Yep.
Um, and I think if I focus less on the future and more on the present, I'd have a much simpler and more enjoyable time experiencing what's going on a day-to-day basis, you know?
Yeah, because it sounds like you might be a little too worried about like this path right now. How's it going to wind up 5 years from now? Sort of rather than just making sure we're progressing forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel I'm sort of very much in the no matter what, let's just let's make a little progress today.
Mm.
You know what I mean? For the business, for life, whatever. What's something we could cross off today? You know what I mean? To me, it's always like felt good to cross something off the list. I got that shoe done. I got that video made. I responded to emails, DMs, whatever the case is. We made a little progress today.
Mm.
Like Shoemaker says, 1%
Yeah,
every day, you know
1%
what I mean?
more.
Something like that, like in a way, like let's make 1% progress today.
For sure. Well,
Yeah.
well, you know what? I'll tell you, like, the my issue with that, and one of my kind of insecurities in a way, is I'm worried that, when that time comes 5, 10 years down the line, then if I am not like constantly reevaluating and constantly readjusting in that way, then I'll get to the point where I'm stuck. And I brought up at the beginning of this when we were talking about money, but I recognize like the time of my life right now uh is so free of responsibility. I have never been more free.
Hmm. Yep.
And I think where you can take that and say, I'm going to take riskier investments and try to get, a lot of money. I think that in a way, like this is my riskier investment. It's me investing into my abilities and my art and whatnot. So I'm not going to worry about money right now. I'll worry about money when I have to worry about money. I'm worried about me right now and try to get the best I possibly can. So I think what I'm worried about is, 5 years down the line, if I'm not focused so much on like solidifying my life and at least to the point where I can rely on these things. I know like the art career is where I need it to be. I know that my mental development is where it needs to be. I'm worried that when I have those responsibilities, then I'm not going to be able to adjust as fluidly as I can now. You know what I mean?
Do you feel you're destined to just get lucky in a way that one day sort of something's just going to click for everything in terms of, bald boy design, and it's just a matter of when, you know what I mean? I feel like I've heard you sort of talk about this in the past, and that you feel your day is coming, you feel you're destined for success. So feel it's just going to be a matter of luck per se. Do you
I don't
feel you're
know.
destined to be successful?
I do feel like that. I do feel like that.
Why do you feel like that?
I'll be honest, dude. I think part of that is copium too. I really do because oh god, bro.
So you don't really believe it?
I
You believe it or you don't. It's a yes or no. You don't have to
I
think about it. You
yeah,
believe it or you don't.
it's not that. I mean, it
Yeah,
is
it
that
is that
simple.
simple.
I do believe it.
Okay. I believe it.
Thank you, boss. Thank you. I do believe it.
I
I
believe
do
it for
believe it.
myself too. You know what I mean?
I believe it for you too. Every single year, not to push this off of me, because I do love talking about myself, but every single year I've looked at your progress. Dude, I've been following you for so long. Like, I mean, people that are listening to this right now don't know, but Dylan's been pioneering customs for dude, so long. I mean, what? It was like almost 15 years,
I
right?
started in 2011.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
God, bro. So yeah, almost 12 years now. Um, and I was following that journey not the whole time, but for a long time since I
Hmm.
was 18. So it was 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago.
Hmm.
And no, even sooner than that. Point being though, um, every year you were always that guy to me and to a lot of people around you. And it's so fascinating because every single year I was like, man, this guy is it. It's like how does it progress past us? Especially during the Rosh run time, whenever
Hmm.
you were doing like the Bel Airs and whatnot, I was like, dude, this guy's fucking king. I was like, I couldn't stop seeing your shoes.
Yeah.
Same with like Kickasso.
Hmm.
I just couldn't stop. So every year you top it, and not like necessarily monetarily, but you're just onto something new. And with
Hmm.
with YouTube and with stencils and with
Hmm.
teaching people, and it's really interesting looking back now because and understanding you as a person and understanding your mentality towards it, because you were able to achieve so much looking really one day at a time that entire time.
Hmm.
And um I guess I would look at it and say like that you've achieved what many people would want to achieve. But I guess having the opportunity to look behind the scenes, do you feel like you know you are satisfied? Do
Oh, a
you?
million percent. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just know there's
Good.
so much more to go to. Like, to me, to me, it's just a matter of, you know what I mean? Like, I truly don't care how long it takes to get there, but I'm gonna get there. You know what I mean? I truly don't. Like, I've been at it already, like I said, since 2011. So full time, almost whatever, a long time now. And believe me, I don't feel like, damn, man, it's not getting there. You know what I mean? Like, I know there's so much more to go. And Yeah, it doesn't matter if I gotta wait for my kids to grow up and them be the ones to take it to the next level. You know what I mean? We're gonna get there one way or another, you know?
That's
So
sick.
and you know, I truly I have to say this, but shout out to my parents, man. Nobody has ever distilled more confidence and belief in me than them. And
Mm.
since I was young, telling me that, you know, that they thought I was destined for something. You know what I mean? And I think that that's a absolutely ginormous factor, like confidence that you can instill in your kids and stuff. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
hopefully it doesn't come off as cockiness ever. You know what I mean? But I think it's just a matter of truly whatever I feel like I put my mind to, I could be confident in. You know?
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That's like the ultimate dream. I can't pin it on my parents that I never really had that, but confidence issues have always been, my biggest downfall. It's like a constant fight. It's between that and staying present and not thinking too far into the future. Those are the two things that are like that's why it's really actually genuinely hard for me to answer questions like, do I feel like I'm going to make it? Because I definitely do. Like the difference between my head and my heart are
Hmm.
so far.
Okay.
They're so
Okay.
fucking wide apart,
Okay.
bro.
Okay. Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
you know what I'm
Interesting.
saying? Because I
Yep.
know I know that's true. I know that's true. But I also can give you a list of 100 things that I'm doing wrong right now that
Mm-hmm.
just fill that with doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like, yeah, it's interesting because like I owe a lot to my parents too. I think I genuinely believe that every generation is just a stepping stone for the next one to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Agree.
why dude, I love what you said about your kid. And if it so comes that this is close to the ceiling you can achieve, you
Yep.
want to make sure your son can go higher.
Yep. Yep. Or
I
daughter. Or daughter.
or daughter, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. No,
Uh
no, no, no. But it's just funny because I truly don't care if neither of them want to do it. You know what I mean? I think it's truly about finding what you want to do, and who the heck would I be to try to force my kids into anything, you know what I mean?
no
And
way.
same with my
Yeah.
wife. She became a nurse, you know, her mom did it, went through all the schooling for it, blah blah blah, did it for years, did not love going to work every day. And you know, once the business, and she's always helped me with the business, got to a point where I was able to sustain everything, it was like, there's no reason for you to go somewhere that you don't love every day when I get to do um when I get to wake up and do what I love every day. You're not gonna, if we're gonna last forever, you ain't gonna love me forever if you're going to do something you hate. Well, I get to do what
Facts.
I love. You know what I
That's
mean?
awesome, bro. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Wait, what does she do now?
Helps me.
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
that's so
Yeah,
amazing.
run the
That's
business,
fucking
man.
awesome.
You know what I mean? Take care of the house. So,
That's
yeah.
fucking sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I am really excited. Uh, it excites me talking to you about this because I don't even have kids, but the the way that you talk about, your wife and the way you talk about sons, daughters, and that mentality, it makes me realize that like those kids are gonna have an amazing dad that won't let them not succeed in whatever way they want. I
Mhm.
think that what you just said is the perfect combination of, I genuinely believe, and I think this came from my parents too, and I think that also, just as a point of thought, I really hope that this can continue going into like generations in the future as well, because I think one of the things that a lot of a lot of people from like the boomer generation will say is like kids aren't willing to work hard nowadays.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think that where the perspective they're coming from isn't may not I may not agree with. I think the sentiment is pretty true that, I think that there are a lot of people, a lot of our parents worked really hard to get us where they were or where we are, to give us the opportunity to also work really hard to go further. And I think that a lot of people take that for granted.
Yep.
So you strike me as the type of guy and the type of dad that would would help their kids work hard as opposed to help them get what they want. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
for sure. For sure. Well, thank you for the compliment, sir.
Yeah, you're very
It very much feels very, very weird getting like compliments as a dad, or even just like thinking like that, you know what I mean? It still takes getting used to, you know what I mean? Because my kids are so young, you know, in a way that it feels like I haven't gotten to necessarily. Although believe me, the early stages are hard for a lot of other reasons. It doesn't feel that you have to get to all the really hard,
Right.
super hard parenting and real life gritty of shaping them and stuff. Although that stuff starts very young, you know what I mean? And you really do start to see a lot of personality traits even at a young age. But yeah, all of that huge, big life stuff feels like, you know, still to come. So thank you, man.
Yeah, of course, bro. And I also I see videos all the time of like kids holding doors when they're like 2 years old
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
saying thank you.
Yep.
And I
Yeah.
know that was one thing when we were really young that my parents were always really adamant about.
Same.
And yeah, and they were always, as time went on, when we were older, like 16, 17, 18, during those kind of like dirt bag days,
Hmm.
then we still were very like, very conscientious of that.
Yep.
And my parents would get compliments all the time about how nice of kids we were and how they did a great job. And it's really crazy. Like, it's really crazy looking back and just being appreciative of that, because now
Yeah.
it goes from you not realizing what kind of an effect you're having to now I realize it because people are telling me, to now I can see it because now they're a little bit more removed. So I, with my own eyes, can see like what I've created.
Yep.
And then you give the reins to your kids, and then your kids are like thank you guys for teaching me these values, because now I appreciate it and I can pass it on.
Yeah, so much of parenting to me feels like taking what you learned from your parents and enjoyed, and then taking the things that you didn't like from your parents
Mm-hmm.
and changing that up and stuff like that. And believe me, manners and all of that type of stuff and respect. And believe me, that was certainly at the forefront of what my parents did. I remember a funny memory is when I would go to my grandparents' house, my dad's parents, the Hispanic side for me,
Uh-huh.
which is very, very important to have manners. If you didn't go inside and say hello to everybody, they would always make an ongoing joke. Okay, go back outside and come back in. You know what I mean? Start over.
That's
And when you
great.
arrive to somebody's house, you say hello. You know what I mean? You do your greetings and stuff like that. And it was always, oh, you didn't say hello to everybody? Go back outside and come back in. And now it's so funny. Here I am 30 years later doing it to my son. When we go somewhere, first thing you do, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
funny.
Dude, and that's a great point. Uh, uh I I think one of the things that I've been most proud of myself for is, you know, understanding and accepting like the downfalls of my parents too. Because I mean, bless their heart, I would never talk like ill on them, but everybody has flaws. Everybody's just a person, you know?
Yep.
And I'd say my
There ain't no
parents,
handbook to parenting,
no, no
you know?
fucking way. No fucking way. And it's so interesting because like I think both my parents were phenomenal parents.
Same.
Um, but they as a relationship were just not made for each other. They just weren't. Like objectively, they tell you the same thing. I mean, they've clashed forever, like
Mhm.
always. And it's really interesting because I remember one of my biggest regrets is when I was leaving for I would live with my parents' house after I went to college. And when I decided to come to Pennsylvania, they didn't agree with it.
Mhm.
And when I say go to Pennsylvania, I mean like start the business and go
Mhm.
full time with it, like really commit to doing this. They didn't agree with it because it was in the middle of COVID, and I had a quote unquote stable job, which I'll be honest, I don't agree with because I got fired like 2 months before that and then got rehired. So like, what the fuck does stable even mean at that point? But not the point. I was making money and I was quitting that in a insecure market to go paint in their eyes.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I always understood their perspective, but it always really hurt me that for my whole life they've been very supportive. And then when I felt like I needed them the most, because
The
I was
most,
just
yeah.
out of a long-term
Mhm.
relationship, like four
Mhm.
years, and I lost, someone I love very dearly. I was trying to be brave. I was trying to develop the work ethic. I was trying to improve. And then I felt like where they still love me, they didn't support that. And one of my biggest regrets was I remember talking to my mom and I told her, I was like, I don't want to be like you. I don't want to get stuck in, that rat race.
Hmm.
And I remember my mom just was she was so devastated by that.
Hmm.
So devastated because at the time I wasn't thinking about it from her perspective or my dad's perspective,
Yep.
where all they've done their whole lives is sacrifice, as far as a relationship goes, sacrifice as far as their time goes, as money
Hmm.
goes. They've just done what they had to so that we could get to the point where we could build on top of that. And then here I am ready to build on top of that, and I pretty much just spit in her face. Um, so it was a really important lesson to me that
Yep.
I carry with me all the time, where life is just a matter of perspective and communication, really. So like, you can, if you can understand why people do the things that they do, then you have a really, really powerful base of knowledge going forward.
Hmm. And your parents at the end of the day are just trying to protect you, and they want what's best for you. So their generation deemed you as having a stable job, because people used to work the same job for 30, 40 years, you know what I mean, or stay in the same business. Nobody does that now. Even
Mm-hmm.
people outside who aren't artists like us, but your friends, my friends who work what you would call 9 to 5 jobs nowadays, nobody, everybody's job hopping and
Mm-hmm.
going, seizing that next opportunity, because hey, somebody's going to give me a pay raise over here making 20% more. You're going to hop at that, you know what I mean, like in terms of loyalty
Mm-hmm.
to a job. That stuff is, it's not the same as that past
Mm-mm.
generation, you know
It's
what I mean? So
capitalism, baby.
yeah, exactly. You're not kidding. So that your parents were just doing what's best for you, and certainly with it being when it was unknown times of the future, and this whole making money on the internet thing, it's weird. And social media, to them, they lived a ginormous chunk of their life without it and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think on top of that, like that was the I mean that's I totally agree with you. That feels like I think it's gonna be different for everybody, but to me that feels like the biggest carryover from the last generation to this generation. You can say what you want about, like political beliefs and whatever. It doesn't none of that really matters to me. Like on a personal level, it's like that generation worked hard, period. It was everybody was you do what you have to do. That's it. Now we have an entirely different mindset, which I think is really beautiful, which is like, I'm going to at least try to do what I want to do.
mhm,
You
mhm.
know,
Yep.
let's just give it a fucking
I try.
go.
What's the worst that could happen?
Yes,
And sometimes there is really bad that can happen, but
absolutely.
is it that bad? You know what I mean? And
It's not
yeah.
irrecoverable. You're like,
Mhm.
and I think it's different if you don't have the privilege to do it. There are many people that you can't just say, I'm going to get up and go give it my all for 2 years, and if I lose everything, who the fuck cares? I'll just get a job.
Yeah.
That luxury isn't to everybody, but I also think that mindset was very rare up until like our current generation.
Mhm.
And so now
Yep.
I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel a responsibility to make sure that what happened before us doesn't get lost.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's funny. I've never had this conversation with my dad, but I'd be super curious to know from him. I'm sure he's going to listen to this at some point.
Hmm.
Because
Hey
you
Dave.
talked about saying "shut up, Papa Jesus," trying to do what you love. My dad worked as a carpenter. He just retired recently, but worked as a carpenter, a trade show carpenter, the last 30 plus years. Um, but I don't think it's something that he loved. And the reason that I say that is because it's not like my dad was doing carpentry and stuff outside of work for fun, for
Mm,
pleasure. You know what I mean? So he did it as a job because, he was able to make good money, provide for a family. My dad didn't, he was not somebody who hated going to work every day. And still now that he's retired, I'm like, do you miss any part of it? He's like, no. I'm like, well, how about the camaraderie of being around the guys and bullshit and stuff? He's like, oh, of course. You know what I mean? I miss that part, but not the labor or anything like that. So I'd be super curious. So, what is, if my dad had to do it again, you know what I mean, and could take a risk, what's something that he would have done, um, just for let's see if I can make a career out of this. You know what I mean? I don't know what it would have been for him,
that would be
so
sick. I would
it,
love to know that.
yeah. Yeah, I'll have to ask him. Because yeah, like I think our generation and the next generation, they're gonna ask that, man. You know what I mean? And that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great thing, dude.
Yeah.
That's a great thing. Changing the conversation from, what are you doing to what do you want to do is pretty cool,
Mm-hmm.
Um
Mm-hmm.
I definitely am curious to see how things evolve too, because yeah, I guess I keep reiterating the same point, but really like I it would feel a shame to me to kind of just let all generations just be history, and just kind of let them fade away.
Mm-hmm.
It feels almost in a way like it was in vain unless you try to, you know, really take some time to think about what
And
they
learn
did
from it.
right and did wrong. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. But I also just approach like myself personally in the same way, you know? It was like you learn lessons, but if you just kind of like think about something and like, I don't like how I did that. I don't like how I treated my friend. I wasn't patient. I didn't listen to that person. I was just waiting for my turn to talk. If you just kind of like think of it on a single basis, you're like, yeah, I'll do better next time. But you usually don't. You don't
Right.
have the habit.
Right. Right.
And so you really have to put effort into revisiting these things and thinking like, man, yeah, I don't want to do this right now, but is this something I have to do? Yeah, then fucking do it, you
And
know?
making a real change. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I think that can also apply to work as well. Um, but I'm curious, like, do you find yourself revisiting both on like a work level, the shoes that you do and looking back on them, but also revisiting like Dylan and thinking about how you've progressed and what you'd like to do more and whatnot.
No, I don't spend a ton of time reflecting
Mm.
because I'm glad I can answer this with what we talked about earlier because I'm sort of, let's take one step ahead. You know what I mean? Let me focus on that rather than, you know what I mean? And yeah, I am somebody who can see flaws in myself in terms of if I'm not able to do this or be present and things like that and know I need to make those changes. Um but yeah, I think so I'm probably spend more time just trying to progress rather than let's sort of fix past things that might be broken. You know what I mean? And maybe that's another character flaw.
I don't know, man. I think that's great. Like, I think that's great, bro. I listen, dude. I reflecting's awesome and all, and like very helpful. But yeah, moving forward is ultimately, I think, pretty important.
Yeah. Yeah. I have no problems doing that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Oh, so actually, so there's a question I wanted to ask you coming into this. I almost totally fucking forgot. Um, I was thinking a lot recently about ignorance. And
ignorance is bliss, right?
ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is bliss. Uh so when I almost totally lost my train of thought again. You
I knew that was
bastard.
gonna throw
You
you
fucking
off.
bastard.
I
You
knew that was gonna
bastard.
throw you off.
I hate you. You're such an ass. Um so I was thinking about ignorance, and there's something that one of my professors in college, his name is Eddie Yongo.
For what
He
class?
social innovation for
Okay.
business. And he's one of my favorite professors of all time. And something he said to me is so simple and it really hit me. And I've carried that with myself for a really long time. And he said, uh, everybody is beautiful and you know more than you think you know. He was a huge proponent that everybody should do some sort of consulting on the side of whatever they do because nobody fully understands the value of the knowledge they have because everybody feels that they're ignorant, like beyond the point of being able to have value in communicating that. If you follow what I'm saying, did that make
Mm-hmm.
sense, or is that
Yep.
gobbledygook? Okay,
Yep.
so I wanted to ask you, um, when you find yourself feeling like, I'm sure maybe you haven't experienced this, but just as a starter question, when you find yourself experiencing that, like, hey, I would love to talk about this, but I feel like I'm ignorant on the subject, so maybe I'll wait. Is
Okay.
that the time that you start having that conversation, or are you the type of person that feels like they need to collect all of the knowledge they can so that they can present and counter any argument that
Mm.
somebody has against a topic?
Yeah. 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 No, because in a way, like let's say you're going up against somebody who has a lot more experience, maybe not even an expert in whatever, topic that you might be discussing. Um, they're just going to have a lot more experience rather than you quickly trying to learn the cliff notes to be able to counter, maybe some of the main things. Like if we went and had an actual discussion about, I don't know, I'm not trying to go to a hot button topic, but even just, I don't know, like gun violence or something like that. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? I'm not an expert in it, but I do still feel like everybody is allowed to have an opinion. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And then from there, you could start to hear um, both sides. I'm not somebody who leans politically any which direction. A lot of this stuff makes sense. A lot of this stuff makes sense.
Uh-huh.
So, but when you can actually hear it from both sides, chances are you might actually be able to learn something. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that everybody's entitled to have an opinion and can have thoughts, and you could probably learn yourself. Everybody should be a learner. You know what I mean? And that's why I think, unfortunately, some of the people who lean too far one way or the other don't want to learn anymore because they don't want to hear from anybody else.
Yeah, I think that tends to be very true. Um, I think the I totally agree 100%. Um, and
I'm
I
not
think
sure if we were trying to get this more art based or something,
oh
but
no,
in a
no, not
different
at
way. Okay.
all. No, I have faith that anybody listening to these conversations can apply it to whatever situation they're in,
Hmm.
really. So I don't really feel like a lot of time we have to direct it like that.
Hmm.
Um, but I think that's kind of the sign of a somebody who's really, really strong and really I don't know how to say it really. I feel like you are very knowledgeable about your own values and yourself if you're secure enough to be able to listen to somebody who has different values than you.
Yeah.
Um, I find that a lot in myself where usually I can identify new insecurities that I can continue working on whenever I start getting defensive about things.
Hmm.
I don't feel like getting defensive unless it's over like a humanitarian right. If there's somebody that's like, I don't believe that people should have a home, I'll get defensive about it. And like obviously, you can believe whatever you want politically about anything, but like I want people to be treated right.
Hmm.
But in general, like if there's something that somebody says on a hot button issue, like you mentioned, you brought up gun violence. Um, if I find myself getting defensive about that and saying like, how could you believe that? Like, why are you attacking me? Like, how do you not see what I'm saying? When it's
Hmm.
something like that, I know it's something that usually I'm not very secure in. I'm not secure in my own values, my own thoughts
Sure.
on that
Yeah.
matter.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that in general, I totally agree with you, where it's like you should be willing to listen and be willing to learn because the the best thing you can do is if you believe in a certain matter, learn everything you can about the opposing view, their
Hmm.
entire perspective, how these people grew up that are talking about it, why they believe the way they do. Because like the worst thing that can happen is you get more knowledgeable and you change your opinion.
Yeah.
Like in your
This
mind, that's the
isn't
worst thing that can happen. But
this
that's a
isn't
good
a
thing.
this isn't a perfect comparison, but to me, it's also um I have no idea if this has to do with the architecture background for myself, but to me it's almost as interesting to learn not only how to build something, but how to reverse engineer something and look
Mm,
at something that was built and see how it was built. You know what I mean? So rather than all the layers going on one by one, can you deconstruct something? You know what I mean? So it's
mhm.
learning in opposite ways. And to me, that's almost just as interesting sometimes or more helpful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Absolutely, bro. It's fascinating. I totally agree. Because
mhm.
like you're built based off of your own personal experiences.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
That's all that is. The same way you can look at somebody and maybe somebody that you like really like frowned upon, in history. I don't even know what a good example would be really, but like somebody who did horrible things, right? You can they're still a human being. There's a reason they came to the conclusions they did
Yep.
to do what they did.
Yep.
So you can hate everything about what they did and all of their values, And the best part about that is when you learn about them and you understand their perspective, it will only solidify your own values if you really believe that. It
Yep.
will make you say, now I know what they did. I know why
Hmm.
they did it. And I
Yep.
still entirely don't agree with it. And now,
Yep.
anytime somebody brings up that conversation of, yeah, but did you think about it like this? Yes,
Yep.
I did. You know?
Hmm. For sure. Yeah. Great point. Great point.
Thank you. And that's bringing it to the products. And like you were saying, reverse engineering, I think that's a really cool way of relating it back to working as well. Because when you work on a project, I think there's a lot of value in like understanding not from the beginning in moving up, but from looking at the end product and being able to move down. And I think that's also why it's really difficult if you're trying to pioneer something because there is no end product, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, I love this, bro. This is fucking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. That was good, man. That was good. What
I
else, man?
oh man, what a fucking deep dive. I don't even know how we started that.
Yeah, we got weird and naked today. Like I said,
Yeah, we did. We
look
got
out,
real
Sean,
fucking
man.
exposed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sean is Audi 5000 today. Oh, yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, I should have said this in the beginning, but Sean had a change of plans last minute for this one, so he couldn't make this one, but obviously we'll be on the ones continuing forward as well. Um, but this may be a really beautiful place to close it out and ask you guys for your thoughts in the comments on anything that we talked about today. Specifically, like I think because it was the most recent matter, how do you feel about ignorance? Do you feel like if you don't know everything about a topic, you still deserve and have a valid opinion on that? I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
There's definitely some truth to that ignorance is bliss statement. You know what I mean, man? If you don't know nothing and you don't worry about it, you don't think about it, then it ain't going to be an issue to you, you know?
Yeah, that's true. You'll be a happy camper, you know.
Just put that right out of your mind. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I
So,
actually think I totally agree with that. I used to think ignorance is just the worst thing that you could do. Where it's like, dude, if you're not willing to learn about it, then like, what are you doing? Now I'm like, hey, listen, there are things I'm never gonna know enough about that I feel like I can talk about it. I'm like, I'm gonna focus on what I can focus on and the things I care about. You other people can handle the rest, you know.
pardon my language, but you only have so many fucks to give, you know?
Yeah. It's so true.
Yep.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, so I got another question real fast before we close this out because I just thought about this. Um, but do you feel like you're the type of person that would rather have kind of like a liberal arts mentality to things where you know a little bit about a lot? Or do you feel like you'd rather be the guy that really knows a ton about like a couple of things?
No, I'd rather be the jack, the master of none,
Why
jack of
is
all trades.
why is that? Why do you think?
I just, I mean, man, I feel like I can just relate that to my art in a way that I always just want to be able to do anything that comes my way. You know what I mean? Rather than I'm only specialized in one thing, so I can only serve so many people. I'd rather just be broader and be able to do anything and then just willingly like, okay, yeah, I enjoy this more. I'll put a little bit more emphasis here, but I can still do anything that comes my way. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
I'd rather know a lot of the encyclopedia rather than only have one section memorized. You know,
Yeah,
I want to
I
be good
do.
on Jeopardy, man. I don't only want to be good if I get to the Irish folklore section. I want to be able to handle any of the topics.
You want to have that trivia brain.
Yeah, come on, man. You
I
know?
fuck with that.
Yeah,
I'm the same way too.
yeah.
I just the kind of the steel man that um do you feel like that's ever stopped you from achieving something like really great in one area though?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think if you ever question yourself, like, why am I not where I want to be? Your life is a culmination of all the decisions you've made. And maybe if I spent less time doing this, focusing on this area, learning in here, and that could have been spent elsewhere if I would have went to school for business, or
Mm.
if I would have read more business books, or if I would have watched, or if I would have went to more business lectures, things like that. Like your life is a culmination of your decisions to where you are now. So what decisions could I have made differently to maybe be more successful at this point? or could those of decisions led me to be less successful at this point? You know what I mean? That the opposite could also be true. So,
Yeah. Yeah,
you
you
know,
gotta I guess you gotta believe in the poetry, you know what I
hmm
mean? To take a Euphoria quote. You know, whether you believe in religion or not, um, you know, we were talking about it earlier, but there's a certain amount of like what feels like determinism where you can do everything right, but then, you know, fucking the market could collapse that you're
yep,
in, or there's no way you can control anything really beyond
yep,
you.
you really can't, you know,
Yeah. So
one
I
step forward at a time.
one step forward at a time. Hey, boss, thank you for talking today. This is fucking awesome.
Yeah, good episode, man. Shout out to everybody listening, watching, leaving comments, reviews. Podcast been growing. It's been cool to see. We appreciate you
Yeah,
guys tuning in, spending some time with us.
absolutely, guys. I hope everybody had a great holiday. I think this will be posted well after like a week and change after the New Year's, but I hope everybody's having a great time and looking forward to the next year and one step forward at a time. See
See
you
you
next
guys.
week.